With more on the Republican National Convention, in reaction to what's been said so far, we have President of the San Diego Young Republicans, Morgan Kimbarow, with us this morning. Good morning to you, Morgan. Really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Great, thanks. So obviously a very different kind of convention, mostly virtual, a lot of it also in person. Curious, as a younger voter, what are your thoughts on the RNC presentation versus the DNC presentation? I know where you probably stand on the topics and everything, but the presentation style of the two, what'd you think?
Well, I think you saw a sharp contrast between the DNC and the RNC. I think the DNC included a lot of fluff from a lot of celebrities and a lot of empty rhetoric. In addition to that, I don't think the production value was very high. I think there was, it wasn't edited very well. But I think you're seeing with the RNC, you're seeing a lot of substance from the variety of speakers, Vernon Jones to Kimberly Klacik, and last night to Madison Cawthorn. So you're really getting a well representation of what America is and what the Republican Party platform is. And I think tonight, when President Trump accepts the nomination, you're going to see really a culmination of these last 3 nights.
What did you think of Vice President Pence's speech last night? I heard some of the more, I guess you could call them liberal pundits, predicting he wouldn't go after the Biden-Harris ticket. But I watched pretty much the whole thing, and I noticed that Pence actually made quite a few verbal jabs at the opponents. What were your thoughts on that?
Certainly. Well, Mike Pence always comes across as stoic and composed, and he's really the perfect complement to President Trump's style. So when Mike Pence is getting out there and he is being forceful with his words, people listen. And I think, again, he drew a very sharp contrast to what the next 4 years of a Trump administration could be compared to a Biden-Harris administration. So therefore, I think, Mike Pence can really articulate what it is that Joe Biden wants. And so I also think it was very uplifting as well, talking about unifying America under all backgrounds and where the country can go in the future. So just to sum it up, I guess Mike Pence, again, really coming out of his shell last night and delivering a very forceful speech, and people, got up in their seat and listened.
A lot of the critics out there will argue that the GOP during this pandemic has not really practiced what they preached when it comes to COVID-19. And we even saw people at the convention, people weren't wearing masks, they weren't social distancing. Does that mixed messaging concern you at all?
Not at all. I think that there has been an effort by the media to paint the administration's effort with COVID have not done a good job. But you can go back and listen to the governors of the Democratic states of what the federal government applied to them, whether it was the masks, right, or any federal aid. You can go back and look at that, and the Democratic governors will have said, President Trump delivered. So I don't think there's really any hypocrisy. I just think that there's been a biased effort by the mainstream media to really go after this administration of doing a terrible job when it looks like they've actually done a pretty good job.
But I'm specifically talking about the distancing at the convention. We saw people sitting right next to each other with no masks on. Would you do that? I mean, I'm assuming you're being safe. The science says you got to be 6 feet away. I mean, what were your thoughts when you saw people sitting right next to each other with no masks?
Well, that wasn't really something I was very focused on. I mean, my whole, I was focused more so on the speech. I really didn't notice that. So, I'm not really one to criticize how they orchestrated the event. I don't think that's really the substance of the RNC or whatever they wanted to do there. So
sure, I think it's just more the optics of it all. But let's ask you, as a young voter, how do you feel the president needs to address things tonight in his speech? Obviously, this is the big moment. Is there anything that he can say that you think can sway those undecided voters out there? And if so, what is that?
Well, I think he has to talk to his second-term agenda, and he's laid that out over the past few days on his website. And I think there's some very encouraging things. For one, creating 10 million jobs in 10 months, in addition to 1 million small businesses, provide school choice to every American, which will lift up lower socioeconomic neighborhoods, especially Black Americans. In addition to that, getting out of the pointless foreign wars and bringing the troops home. So I think he has to hit on those 3 points, much so in the theme of 2016. And I think that people will be inspired to cast their vote for President Trump, the undecided voters that see President Trump's agenda for the future compared to Joe Biden's America.
Morgan Kimbarow, thanks so much for chatting with us this morning. We sure appreciate your time.